webinar. We're going to get started here in just one moment, but before we do, if you could confirm that both my voice and now my screen are showing okay, and then we can get started. Thank you. Pleased to see that we have a few attendees this week. The webinar was not held for the previous 2 weeks. So glad to see so many familiar faces back here again. Hello to Rick, Dean, Victor. I guess everything is all right, and then we can get started. So once more, this is VooPlayer's Q&A weekly webinar call, which we are holding, as the name indicates, every week on Tuesdays to answer any questions you as users may have, also to provide any training on advanced use cases and features, as well as to showcase new stuff that we've been working on. But primarily just to talk, discuss, and share ideas on how to improve VooPlayer in the future. If you're not able to attend any of these webinars, weekly replays are available both on our YouTube channel, link to which I posted in the chat box, link to which I posted in the chat box, as well as on our Facebook group. So if you haven't subscribed to that channel or joined that group, I do encourage you to do so. Also, a good resource for everybody getting started with VooPlayer, if you're new to VooPlayer, is our knowledge base, which is available at docs.vooplayer.com, as well as our getting started section. Is a particularly neat place to get started with VooPlayer, as it helps you walk through the process of creating a video and uploading a video, creating a player, and adding stuff to it, and then publishing it on your site. So that's always cool. What else am I missing? Oh yeah, so if at any time you have an idea which you would like to share with us, or you'd like to see what's new and upcoming, or what's been released, you can always, inside of the application, come over here and click on documentation and support, and click on submit and vote on new ideas, where you're able to see our product board, on which you can see stuff that we're planning on doing, stuff that we're considering doing. So these are all ideas submitted in an integration request submitted from the previous, from other customers, and you're able to vote on them as they are able to vote on your ideas if you submit them and let us know how important they are to you. We're of course always available via our live chat option, where you can have a conversation with us, or via support@vooplayer.com email. So those are the channels in which you can reach us. Alrighty, I think that's all of the housekeeping out of the way. Rick has a question: any new updates or features? No, I haven't prepared anything for this webinar call. I just got back from my vacation yesterday, so I'm just catching up on things as we move forward. Victor has a few questions. Definitely looking forward to those. Good day, all from San Francisco. Thank you, Stephen. Good day to you as well. Victor is asking, can I store Zoom recordings directly to VooPlayer? Like with Google Drive, we want to store on VooPlayer for extra security, and would very much appreciate if we can skip the step of local recording and then uploading. No, I'm not aware. We use Zoom as well, so that's a really interesting question. I don't know if Zoom has options for storing externally. Let me just take a look at my Zoom, see what options are in there. I'm not even sure how Zoom functions with external recording. Every time I recorded a session, I only recorded it. I don't know if my Zoom will start now. Let's try that one more time. Start Zoom. There we go. I don't know how it performs with, where do we do that? Settings somewhere. Settings. recording. So you can do local recording and choose a location for recorded files when the meeting ends. Record a separate audio, optimize for third-party video editor, add a timestamp. Cloud recording, manage my cloud recording. I'm just curious what options are available inside of Zoom. So cloud recordings go directly to Zoom. But as Victor points out, you can, where is that question? You can store to local drive. So if I could have a synchronized local drive with the Voo player location, that would work. Sorry for getting off track there a little bit with seeing what Zoom capabilities are, but you would, if you wanted to do that, you could set that up in a way. However, the problem with that would be that if you're storing files that Zoom provides and serving them directly, then they're not secured. So the first uh, item you mentioned, where you would want to store on Voo Player for extra security, that would not be able if you were using the if you're using the Zoom file. It's so how, let me just explain, maybe it's of some benefit to everybody else on the call, on how the security layer works. So part of securing, so I'll share this article as well, security of content or content security, something like that, video content security. So let me just share this article. It's definitely a useful read. So we offer, aside from whitelisting domains and password protection and all of that fun stuff, we offer something that nobody else does to this extent, and that's the HLS segmentation encryption. So if you have a video file like an MP4 or a MOV file or an AVI file or anything, doesn't really matter. That file in itself can be protected in various ways. But once somebody observes their network traffic and they're able to identify where that file is streaming from, they can access that file directly, because you can't fool their network traffic, and they can download that file. So once that happens, your file is downloadable and people can steal it and use it for other purposes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, with HLS segmentation, what happens is that when you upload your file to Voo Player, we take your original file, and then we First, what we do is we make 2-second segments of that file, and then we encrypt each of these segments with a mutating algorithm, which can only be decoded within Voo Player. So even if somebody has a link to one of those files, even if somebody has a direct link to your video files, they can't be decrypted offline outside of Voo Player, so they can be played. So that's the big benefit of the Voo Player segmentation encryption, is that we take the original file and we convert it, optimize it, segment it, and encrypt it. So if you want to secure files which are in other locations, you can't do that, because then we can't segment them and convert them and optimize them and encrypt them. We're just serving the files from another location. So even if you were to upload files somehow directly, let's just oversimplify this. Let's say you were able to FTP files directly to Voo Player. That wouldn't do much, because then you would still have your unencoded file. It doesn't matter if the file sits on our servers or it sits on Google Drive or it sits on Dropbox or wherever. It's still not encrypted. But so that's why I kind of went into there are some services, and don't hold me to this, but I think maybe Camtasia and other services which allow for upload to other services, and there you can leverage something like uploading files via API, which then allows them to go through the actual conversion process of files. But from what I see, Zoom does not have that option. So unfortunately, the workflow there is storing locally and then uploading to WooPlayer. I mean, I know you said security is important to you, but in a use case where security might not be that important, you could definitely set up a workflow where you can store your recordings to a local Dropbox folder or Drive folder or whatever you have, and then you can use those links to create videos by URL. But then, as I mentioned, they will not be secured. Rick is asking, can I download a Vue HLS file and host it on a hybrid storage to play with WooPlayer? To play with WooPlayer. Now, that's a very good question. So I'm 99% sure that you can. So what happens, I'll dive a little bit more into our security. So Rick is saying, so for example, I don't know if I have WooPlayer open anywhere. If not, I'll just open it real quickly. So, and I'll explain to you why this won't work, just so you get a better understanding of everything. So, for example, let's see, this file is, as we see over here, indicated that it's secured. So we can come over here to edit this video, and we can come over here to access the source for this file. So replace video source, and here we can see the actual content source for this video, and that's an M3 U8 playlist, and that's an HLS file. So as if you look up M3 U8, you'll see that's UTF encoding playlist for HLS streams. So if you, so for example, Rick's question was, could I use this, download it to my files, to my computer, and then move it somewhere else, and then have it played? So a couple of reasons for why that won't work. The first one is, of course, that the playlist itself, it's nothing much than a reference to those actual HLS segment files. So even if I download this, for example, and if I take a look at this, you'll see that this is all this video is. It's just a reference to other files. So for example, if I access one of those files, and I know what it is by heart, so if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the actual playlist. So this is what the actual playlist looks like, and that's a reference to 2-second file segments. So even if you download these playlists, they're just references to other files. But here's the actual video file so if you manage to download all of this, you could. Let me see, where did I have that URL somewhere that I just wanted to open? Maybe not. Even if you download this file and host all of them, and you package them all in the same way, so they're all of the references matched up, they still won't be able to, even if you, let's say this, there's even a reference here to the key file. So this is the WooPlayer key file, which is the encoding for that file. Even if you get a reference to that key file and you download that key file and you match it up with everything, you still won't be able to play it. And the reason for that is that the way that this is structured is that we, of course, have to allow other people to provide their own HLS streams, right? So we are only decoding the files that come through our server, through our recognizable WooPlayer hosting services, are the files that are being decoded. All other files. So if you provide a file which is coming from another hosting service, then that will not be decoded for our files. So in short, I mean that wasn't in short, but long story short, basically, HLS files are allowed to be played from different locations. But if you actually take the actual WooPlayer HLS playlist and host it somewhere else than WooPlayer, I think I'm 95% sure that will not work, because I remember a place in code where we say, hey, is this file encoded? And then if it is encoded, then is it coming from WooPlayer? And only if it's coming from WooPlayer, use our mutating algorithm decryption, and that's the only time that's used. And if that's not used on a WooPlayer encrypted file, then that file will not be played. That's all there is to it. So hopefully that answers that question. And then hopefully getting familiar with some more details around how that security is layered lets you understand why the WooPlayer content security is so powerful. As I mentioned, I just sent in the article on that security, and you can read more about it. And if you have any questions on how you can set this up on external hosting, we'll gladly chat over support on that, because there's definitely ways in which, maybe not to this level, uh, you can set it up to the level of having the key, but if somebody gets the key as well, I mean, anything that you want to accomplish with WooPlayer, as I mentioned, we're more than open to discuss it over our support channel. So definitely looking forward to any security related concerns and ideas for improvement, if there are any, of course. Zoom is a cool tool. We definitely use it tool, and there's been, and if I'm not mistaken, on our ideas board, submit and vote on ideas under integration requests. There's been, and Camtasia is the only one that's kind of picked up sort of the momentum on users wanting to leverage this, is that there's a lot of course, offline tools. I mean, very very rarely is video an online created artifact. Usually it's coming from offline sources, such as either desktop recording or actual camera recordings that are then transferred to your hard drive and then uploaded online, and so on and so on. So there's been a lot of discussions around what are the ways in which WooPlayer can help make the workflows when you're creating thousands and thousands of videos more streamlined, and we're definitely willing to hear out all of those use cases in which we can partake in order to make them a little bit easier. And what would really help us is to understand those use cases a little bit. So, for example, there are some people who who make screen recordings. There are some people who make complex animations. There are some people who go out with a stick, that camera stick thing, whatever that's called, and they walk around and record themselves and then connect their phone to iTunes and then download the video, and so on and so on and so on, or don't even connect their iPhone to a computer, and so on. So there's a lot of use cases, and what would really help us understand how we can best fit within those workflows is if we heard more of those workflows and use cases of creating videos. So at any time that you just want to tell us what you're up to and what you're doing with video online, either with using WooPlayer or not, and what are some of the difficulties, what are some of the tedious repetitive steps in your workflows, that would be great if we could somehow alleviate. Just shoot us either come to the ideas board and say, submit an idea and say, hey, I think it would be great if there was whatever shared desktop folder where I can just drag WooPlayer files and they would automatically appear in my WooPlayer account ready as players. Just share ideas or just let us know what your use cases are. This doesn't necessarily need to be an idea. This can just be a pain point saying, hey, I have a pain point and it's really crucial for you to come up with a solution to that. So definitely willing to hear out any use cases on where WooPlayer can fit within the workflow of from video creation to somebody viewing that video. If there's a lot of repetitive steps, where we can step in that process and make your lives a little bit easier. Stephen is commenting, Video Remix has a feature called Google Smart Maps. It looks like a CTA script played after the video is paused. I tried a Google Maps embed in full screen CTA with WooPlayer and it works. Is there a way to pause a video when a CTA embedded is activated without placing it at the end? Yes, actually there is. I need to make that a little. There's been, I can't remember what the actual overlay was. Somebody wanted, oh yes, I think somebody wanted an inline video pop up at the middle of the video, and then at that point the main video of course needed to be paused, and we came up with a code that was doing that. But I'm seeing more and more use cases where it's definitely beneficial to have an option to have a video pause when there's an overlay. So we'll definitely look, let me just note that feedback. So we'll definitely, so I don't forget about it, we'll definitely look at introducing an option which is sort of a checkbox, pause the video when this overlay appears. So we'll definitely include that. But Stephen, if you could just email us at support@woolplayer.com and just describe this use case in detail, and I'll be sure to follow up with the code that needs to be included in an overlay for it to pause the main video. It's definitely feasible. I would just need to dig right. I don't know if it was the last webinar or the webinar before the last one, but it's in one of those. Either take a look at those in a reference if you haven't attended those, or just email us and I'll dig that up for you until we make that option available from within the application. Victor is saying the next question is in 3 parts related to better protection of videos and making them available to members only with a minimal footprint. I heard before that the danger for a bigger footprint makes you less enthusiastic at WooPlayer being used as a member solution. So to make the personal links more anonymous and prevent misuse, I would definitely like to use graphical user interface design to identify them. I have the in user ID on GIST. Can I global unique ID? So GUID is usually graphical user interface design, but I looking to use it as a global unique ID can work as well. Can I use that to personalize instead of email? We've had so personalization inside of WooPlayer is a great thing, and if you're not familiar with it, WooPlayer. Well, actually, I have the docs open right here, so might as well. Personalized content or personalized data, I think it's called personalized videos. So personalized videos are a really great tool that allows you to bring in data from your CRM and show it inside of overlays. Or leverage it in any other way, use it to create customized links and so on and so on and so on. So I'll just post this as a reference for anybody who's, oops, I don't know why I posted that. Obviously, I didn't copy this link. So here's that. personalized data. For anybody who wants to be more familiar with how that personalization works and how you can set that up on your account and within your CRMs. And it's great because it also feeds back the viewing data to those CRM contexts. So a lot of positives there. But anyway, to answer Victor's question, is there a way to, instead of email, use the ID? For example, on Gist, or we've had a customer complaining about the GDPR policies, and he was using ActiveCampaign as his CRM, and he didn't want to use the email inside of the URL for the videos. It's certainly a consideration. There's currently not an option to do that, but I'll make a feedback point of that as well, to consider IDs as well. Is not something that's feasible at this time, but definitely something that we can work on to make achievable. I'm not necessarily sure that I understood the first part where you were talking about the footprint. I heard before that the danger for a bigger footprint makes you less enthusiastic at VooPlayer being used as a member solution. I'm not. I understand that. I understand what you're referring to as the footprint. Make them available. Better protect of video and making them available to members only with a minimal footprint. Maybe like a minimal URL. I'm not sure what the footprint part is in reference to. If you can clarify on that, that would be appreciated. That I would appreciate that. Stephen, definitely looking forward to seeing the demo of their product as well, and sharing that code that will pause the video with you. Also, it's been going through my mind for a while now, having the option for the overlay to, when the overlay shows up, for it to pause the video. So definitely looking forward to finally getting that out as an option. Victor is saying, I need to find back the video where you mentioned that. All right, sure. I honestly can't remember. If you could just clarify what you mean by minimal footprint, I'll definitely elaborate on what I meant in that video. I don't remember ever mentioning a minimal footprint, but all right. Cool. Do we have any other ideas or questions in the meantime? Yeah, we do for Victor. I guess that three-part. Can I use the personalized fields in custom HTML blocks? Want to use script to make decisions like redirect in script based on personalized info? No, you can't use personalized data inside of the custom HTML blocks. And the reason for that is that the custom HTMLs are parsed when they're rendered, but personalized data, I mean, I see how, now that I'm talking about sort of what the process is there for obtaining that personalized data and then pre-rendering it and then rendering, it would cause a lot of difficulties on our end to execute on that. But it's something that's doable. So if you have specific use cases like this, Victor, it's best really to have these conversations over support, because is this possible or can this be used? So my answer here is no, but without understanding your use case a little bit better and why it's valuable to you, it's hard to me to get behind that idea and sort of brainstorm out everything that's feasible and how difficult it would be to facilitate something. So if you have particular use cases in mind that that require something that's currently not available within the application, such as I'm sure that you're aware that you can't utilize personalized data inside of the custom HTML fields. And I won't get into the reasons as to why that is right now, but I will say that it would be possible with a lot of revisions on our end, but it's something that could be done. But I would really appreciate understanding the use case behind it. Yeah, definitely. As mentioned, just open up a conversation on support, and we can go in detail over. Just ask for me on support, and then we can just go over the taking the webinar question offline, and we'll just continue the conversation, sort of speak in private, but more directly. All right, cool. Any other questions? Third, for integration with GIST, would it be possible to choose video in email template in GIST? Would it be possible to choose video in email template in GIST? Not sure, but include that as well in the elaboration of your use case, and then we can talk about it. If like a drop-down list to include video in an email template, to choose video in email template. I'm not sure what you mean by video in an email template, but my hunch is saying no. Are you able to do with that with any other video provider like YouTube or something? Does GIST have some sort of an? I'm not that familiar with GIST, so I would really have to dive deeper into it to understand it. So again, probably best to take this conversation to the support channel. All right, cool. If no other questions, I want to thank you everybody for joining this week. We're a bit short on time. I do have a hard stop, so I apologize if we didn't get to all of the questions. In case you had a question which wasn't answered, as mentioned, we're available via all of those channels, supported woodplayer.com being the primary one. So we definitely look forward to hearing from you there. Thanks again for joining this week, and hopefully we'll see you next week when we look to make WooPlayer even better. Thank you very much. Bye.